Hello! In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use a new brush node in wrap3. It can be very useful when you need to perform a cleanup on a mesh after wrapping. Let's start with a standard case. On the left we have a head base mesh. On the right there is a head scan. For demonstration purposes, I intentionally used just two control points here. Let's click Compute to start wrapping. I'll speed up the video to save time. So, as we can see, the wrapping was not very successful. The model has a lot of artifacts. Normally, we would go back to the point selection, add a few more control points, and wrap the mesh again. Or we would have to switch to some external software to do the cleanup there. The good news is that now you can clean up models from inside Wrap. To do this, we are going to use the new brush node. Let's go ahead and create one. In the first input, we plug the mesh that should be cleaned up. In the second input, we can plug a reference mesh, which is, in our case, the scan. We can adjust the opacity of the base mesh using the opacity slider. Let's set the opacity to 50. Here on the left, you can see a list of available brushes. I'm going to show the typical use cases for some of them. You can switch between the brushes by clicking on them, or by pressing a corresponding number on the keyboard. You can click and drag with the right mouse button to adjust the size of the brush. The first problem we can fix here is the nasolabial fold. If we turn off opacity mode for a second, you can see that the fitting of the base mesh in this area is very bad because the corresponding edge loop doesn't match the nasolabial fold. I'm going to use the Move Project brush to quickly fix that. I can also use the Relax Project brush to smooth the mesh while leaving it on the scan surface. Let's do the same for the other side. Alright. If we go to the 3D viewport and look at the result of the brush node, we see nothing. If we check the status of the node, it says that we need to click on the Apply button in order to apply the changes we made. Now we can see the result. OK, let's go back to the Editor tab. Another problem that we can see is with the lips. If I press and hold the A button, it will hide our base mesh, which is very handy in many cases. We can see that the line where the lips make contact is slightly off. I'm going to fix it using a simple move brush. Note that in this case, both lips move together. This happens because by default, the brush is using Euclidean distance. If we want to separate the lips, we can turn on the Use Geodesic Distance parameter. Now we can split the intersections of the lips. I'm going to use the Project brush to fit the lips back onto the surface of the scan. You can press Shift to temporarily activate the Relax brush. Okay, looking good. We also have a problem with the ears. I'm going to use the Move brush to match the profile of the ear. This part over here is much thicker than our base mesh. Let's use the Inflate brush to fix that. As the final touch, let's use the Relax Project brush to fit the base mesh tighter to the scan. The strength of the brush can be adjusted using the strength parameter. Let's do the same for the back of the ear. Awesome. One last thing I wanted to show you is the eyes. The artifacts on the eyelids seem very hard to fix. If we naively smooth the surface using the Shift key, that clearly won't help. This is where the clone brush can come in handy. The idea of the clone brush is to duplicate local surface features from another mesh. As a source for the local features, I'm going to use our original base mesh, where the topology is nice and smooth. I'm going to plug this mesh into the third input of the brush node. If you press and hold the Z button, you can see the source mesh. With a few strokes, the clone brush brings the base mesh back to its original state. Starting from here, I can use the Move brush to match the contour of the eyelid. Now that we have matched the contour from one view, we need to do that from another angle. Adjusting the contour from a different view will quickly provide us with a nice solution. Let's spend a few seconds fitting the edge loops to the eye crease. Alright, with this done, let's use the Relax Project brush to fit the base mesh vertices back onto the scan. The final trick is to apply the clone brush again to fix the artifacts on the inner edges. Here we go. One eye is ready. In just a few minutes, I have fixed the other side of the mesh. Don't forget to click the Apply button or press Ctrl B to apply the changes to the mesh. And here is our final result. That's it for this tutorial. I'll see you again in our future videos.